Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do another video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of my water first. My radio voice going, and let's talk about this. This is something I sat down and thought about all weekend. You know, I've said in numerous videos that some of the best physiques and strongest men I have ever met train 3 days a week. Instead of taking clients who we've done muscle groups once a week, even doing 3 days a week. And I'm like, you know, honestly, with the sort of volumes I'm trying to do, you know, even in that 10 set per week range, I don't necessarily need to split my training up. In fact, one of the things I notice is that I train my triceps so hard right now, I'm having DOMs that last 7 days a week. Okay, not necessary. And I'm also questioning, is this impeding my performance session to session? When I'm pushing some of these lifts so hard, and I'm trying to train every muscle twice a week, I am still hurting by the time I get to the session. Like even today, I did a chest and tricep day, but my triceps were still a little crampy by the time I got to it. I was warming up on bench and my triceps felt a little crampy. So the question becomes, should I consider doing the once every 7 days? There can be some overlap because, you know, again, if I deadlift on back day, you know, have shoulders and stuff on their own day, I'll be okay, right? There's going to be a lot of overlap on certain things. It's unavoidable. But here's the thing that I've realized. It will allow me to recover better. The research, when I used to talk about training everything twice a week, this was when we were looking at old data. This was an evidence-based approach, okay? I want to be clear on that. That was an evidence-based approach. But the data has shifted. It really isn't fully supporting that. There are plenty of studies now showing once a week makes great gains. How many great physiques and strong people do we know who train muscles once a week? Not that big of a deal. Again, I've taken clients and seen amazing progress, even in fairly advanced lifters, on 3 day splits. So I'm like, I'm going to just do a 4 day split. So I had to think about where I'm going to split stuff up. You guys can see it through the vlogs. But the thing that I thought about is, yeah, it will give certain muscles time to recover. It will give tendons time to recover, because that's kind of a big deal. I've watched people do this for decades. We've all seen massively successful bodybuilders and strength athletes who train this way. It's not really been a problem. The data is now saying it's not a problem. So I've realized what this would let me do is actually allow everything to recover, not feel any residual fatigue in those localized fatigue session to session, and come in and hammer things. Okay, hit stuff hard. Because what I've noticed on some of the days when I have done sessions to where, I'm not feeling, I'm just going to almost deload my Friday lower body day. I've had times where I've done that and I come in and deadlifts feel amazing and stuff the next time, you know. Or my lifts in general, like I feel stronger, I feel better. And I've noticed a lot of it's probably just due to localized fatigue also in my body. And it's something I'm noticing as I get older. And I see plenty of masters lifters who train this way just fine. And I could go down to 3 days, but I really want kind of a 4th day just to make sure some of the show muscles get hit a little bit better. So yes, I am going to actually have, what I'm planning on doing at this point, if you guys saw the vlog, I did a chest and tricep day. I'll do a back day. Probably going to have a leg day, and I'm going to have a bicep and shoulder day. Now, that might be subject to shifting around. I could end up putting the shoulders in one of the other 3 and having a pure arm day. But I feel like because the benching and all the pressing hits my triceps so hard too, I don't know that that's wise. Because back day, I can go over to normal back work and not worry about supine grip because I'm going to do a bunch of curls. I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 types of curls just by themselves on a separate day. So I don't need to worry about the bicep end. If I did anything on that day, it would just be some extra forearm work possibly, because I'm doing all that pulling, because I'm probably going to deadlift, do pull-ups, rows, all that stuff. But the other idea here is that it lets me get a wider exercise selection, because I could probably come in and really just squat, bench, and deadlift and do a few accessories 3 days a week and still get good gains. But if I'm really trying to maximize everything at this point, particularly as I try to get leaner, again, I'm easing back into cutting. Going to start slowly trimming down further, because again, I don't think people should cut. I agree with a lot of experts. They don't try to cut all the way through. I did a nice little run of a cut, got leaner, kind of more or less recomped a little. I'm going to slowly start working down again. Okay, continue to get leaner. But I do want those weak body parts to come up. And so it is really going to be kind of what people are trying to call power building, similar to what guys like O'Hearn do. And what have I said in the past when this has come up? I've said with Mike O'Hearn multiple times, the fake natty thing and the junk products is my only beef with Mike. All that nonsense. Mike's training, and I've said this before, his training is exquisite. Okay? And he runs that sort of setup. He runs a 4-day split. He does heavy barbell work, then he does his pump work. He calls it power bodybuilding. People want to call it power building. But it's more or less what I've said we can all do. I've believed in this for a long time anyways. Heavy barbell work, then pump work on 4 days a week. Works great. He's just doing it as a split routine. But you know what? He's still in the game. I mean, and he is a textbook example. Granted, people will say genetics, magic supplements, all that. Sure. But there's something to be said for consistency. He's been able to be consistent that way. And that is a big thing that I've noticed over the years too. A lot of the guys who do their bro splits, they're just consistent. There's possibly a certain amount of psychological motivation with that. And I've looked at that and I feel like that's worth discussing, even if there's no physical advantages other than, it does give some localized areas like your joints and certain tendons time to recover. And I think that's kind of a big deal. Because too much frequency, too much volume is what caused even my shoulder issues originally. But by doing it this way, I can come in, focus on muscles, and I can make sure that that muscle is thoroughly worked all the way through. So just like today, what you guys see me do, you saw me do 3 different chest exercises and 3 different tricep exercises. Did we work a lot of angles? Yes. Did we do some really hard work and hard sets? Yeah. Like you guys are watching me shake and strain on the last set of every bench, right? These were pretty much, most of my workout was 0 to 1 rep in reserve. A lot of it was about 1 rep in reserve. I hit some new angles, and that's the other thing. If I'm doing this, I can always have, these are my core exercises that I'm going to push progression on, and then I can come in and work all these deeper angles with smaller movements after. Anything that's lacking, I can make sure I get every muscle into those certain stretch positions and things that I need. So just like today, yeah, I did my skull crushers, but then I did behind the head extensions. Okay, we did the pullover. So we did all these things to make sure that long head got worked, made sure all the heads of the tricep are worked. We made sure the upper and lower chest is fully worked. Right, we did pullovers, which also help with the whole shoulder, with shoulder and chest mobility. It can be the same thing all the way through. I can go through and look at these different angles. And I've said for a long time, the best exercise for any muscle is to do a couple of really good exercises. This will allow me to apply that easier. As I'll come in and be able to do, probably for every muscle group in my body, it's probably going to get 3 exercises on those days. We can make sure we hit different angles, right? We'll have plenty of room for vertical pulling, horizontal pulling, different angles of bench press inclination, different tricep heads. Thoughts about this stuff on biceps, barbell work and dumbbell work. And I've got some different stuff people will see me do they haven't seen me do before. And there's some stuff I used to do back in the day we're going to make some returns of because I got great results before I got sidetracked from some of those assistance movements. I feel like now I'm in a position where I can come back and use some of those again, continue to rebuild muscle, particularly things like my legs. Got to blow my quads back up, get my squat back up. But again, I'll try to keep most of my stuff 5 reps or heavier. So my heavy work is probably going to be in the 5 and up rep range for my big movements. And then a lot of my smaller work today was all 12 plus reps. And I think that's a good principle overall to apply. Heavy work followed by pump work. But we start with a big barbell movement and then we finish up down to the smaller exercises all the way down to, if we need to, machines, dumbbells, cables. Well, in my case, I use bands because I don't have cables. Whatever we need to do to get there. And again, it allowed me to throw some different stuff out there, different ideas, stuff I've used with clients over the years that I haven't done in my own training, it hasn't made it into vlogs. It will let me display a lot of these different things, which I think, will be interesting for people to see. And it's already got a ton of comments, so I think people are interested in saying, like, well, let's see what Blaha's actually going to do here. This is going to be different. Plus, people have always said, oh, you want to look, you don't ever do bro splits. You never do body part splits, and that's why you don't look like, well, okay, so I'm going to do them for a while, and then let's just see what happens. But I know how to program them correctly because I do know programming and exercise science, so we're going to make it effective. But again, we come down to, can I get the most out of doing the amounts of volume I want to do, which is not crazy high volumes? Can I get the most out of it? Can I take 10 sets a week roughly, do a few exercises to get there, train really hard, hit all the angles, and keep getting more jacked? All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.